Hi, first graders. So we have just finished up reading the story Ida Always. And in that story, they show a lot of details. In the story, the author demonstrates those details by showing you and not telling you. So I'm going to explain that a little bit more. So when an author shows but doesn't tell you, that means the author is conveying how the character feels through words and phrases that appeal to our senses and reminds us of how we felt before. Sometimes illustrators aren't the only ones who can paint pictures. Authors paint pictures in our minds, and so they do that using some sensory details. So when we say sensory details, we're thinking about those five senses: what you can see, smell, taste, touch, and hear. So, I'm going to be giving you guys some examples of some sensory details that really make that sentence a little bit more appealing and exciting and more descriptive for the reader. That way, we can have a better visual of it. So, we'll go ahead and go over some examples of that. All right. So, like I said, when an author is making those details so important and adding those sensory details to it, it helps us visualize and understand the story better. Sometimes when the sensory detail will be about what we hear. And when you're reading through the story, it's almost like you can really hear exactly what that sounds like. They do the same thing when you can smell, touch, taste, and see it. Sometimes when you close your eyes and you make a visual image, you can imagine it really in your mind and see it. Or if the reader is talking about how something tastes and they're using those important sensory details, it's almost like you can taste it yourself. So, here are some examples I wrote, and I'm going to do a couple examples together, and then I'm going to have you guys do some on your own. So, this is going to be part of your activity on Seesaw. So, this example is going to be how the reader can hear it. In the blue, I have a boring sentence, and in the purple box, I have a sentence that has those great details, those sensory details that help us really understand the story really well. So let's read the boring blue one first. The first sentence says, when Cameron dropped her toy, it was loud. All right. She dropped her toy and it was loud. The word loud here, that's boring. We can make it, I want you to really understand exactly how that sounded. So here's my sentence that we are going to add those sensory details to make it more descriptive and more juicier and exciting. All right, so here's my new sentence. When Mackenzie dropped the toy, it sounded like a plate crashing on the floor. So I'm going to underline the part that said, like a plate crashing on the floor. All right. Do you understand the difference? Think about when I want you all to close your eyes real quick, and I want you to think about a plate dropping on the floor and breaking into a ton of pieces and it crashes. What does that sound like? Can you hear that in your head? That gives you a better understanding of what that sounded like when Mackenzie dropped the toy. Now, is that a better sentence than the one over here in blue that says, when Cameron dropped her toy, it was loud? Yes, we know it was loud, but now we know how loud it was and what it sounded like over here in the sentence about Mackenzie in purple. So I want you to underline the descriptive language here, and I want you to, I'm not underline, but highlight the descriptive language here. And then we are going to circle the sentence that is better, that's using better description. All right, we're going to go ahead and do that with the next one. All right, here's our other sentence. This one is, how can the reader smell it? All right, so in my blue sentence over here, it says Jace's lunch smelled bad. So, what are we describing here? When we're talking about how it smelled bad. So, the only word I used was bad to describe how it smelled. But over here on my purple slide, it says, Bear's lunch smelled like rotten eggs. Let me use I'm going to highlight rotten eggs because that is how I am describing it. I can actually smell. I want you to pretend like Jace is opening up his lunchbox and he forgot to take some of the stuff out and he smelled it and it smelled bad. It gives us we can't really imagine what it smells like. But now I want you to pretend Bear opening up his lunch and all of a sudden you smell rotten eggs. That is what Bear's lunch smelled like. Can you imagine that? Can you smell that? Pretend like you're smelling it? Yes, and that helps us determine just how bad Bear's lunch really smelled. So, Bear's sentence here in the purple was the sentence that had the most detail. All right, we're going to do one more together, and then I'm going to have you guys do a couple on your own. All right, let's see here. So, I'm going to read this one out loud. It says, Can the reader touch it? How does the reader touch it? So in the blue sentence, it says, The edge of Coolidge's desk was sharp. All right. So what is the descriptive word there? The word is sharp. So I'm going to go ahead and highlight that. That's how we're describing it. The edge of Coolidge's desk, it was sharp. Now we're going to read the purple sentence. The edge of Izzy's desk felt like a cactus. So I'm going to highlight the word felt like a cactus because instead of saying sharp, we added some more descriptive sensory language there. Felt like a cactus. Our cactus is really sharp. And would it hurt when you touch it? Exactly. Yes, it would. So instead of just saying his desk was sharp, now we can say the edge of her desk felt like a cactus. And I want you to imagine touching a cactus and poking it or running your hand across it. You can imagine just how sharp that would feel. So Izzy's sentence here would be the one that had the most detail. So Coolidge's desk just said it was sharp, but hers it said it felt like a cactus. So we can add those extra details to really help us understand just how sharp it felt. All right, I'm going to click out of my screen here so you can see these last two sentences here in the blue and the pink box. So we have Chloe's lizard was colorful and Emerson's lizard was bright and colorful as a rainbow. So I want you to imagine as the reader, what can you see? When you visualize it, what do you see? When we say the word colorful for Chloe's sentence, Chloe's lizard was colorful. We can't really see exactly what that would look like, but because of the purple sentence as some extra detail there, Emerson's lizard was bright and colorful as a rainbow. Now we can really visualize it and see what it would look like in our head. So I'm going to have you on this slide. You are going to highlight the sentence here, what word we used as the description, and we're going to highlight how we described the sentence here as well. And then circle which sentence you think was better and had the most description in it. And then you're going to do the same thing below here on the pink slide. This time we're going to talk about how the reader can taste it. So our sentence in the blue box is Neela's food was sour. All right, I want you to highlight the word that we used to describe there. And then I want you to read this next sentence in purple. Ben's food tasted as sour as lemons. And then I want you to highlight the descriptive words in that sentence. And then after you do that, compare the blue and the purple sentence there and decide which one had the most detail in it and circle that one, just like you did in the three examples above. So that is how the author can show you without telling you. All right. So we can say that for example, that was as loud as a marching band. Without telling you it was super loud, you had an idea of just how loud it was because I used that descriptive language. So I want you guys to go ahead and do this activity on Seesaw. And then if you need some extra help, feel free to ask me or go back to this video and look through these directions again.